So, good morning, everyone. The clock is now 10. I can see people are still joining in slowly, but I will just start off slowly with the agenda and so on. So, thank you all for joining in today. I'm excited to present to you the new features for FEM-Design 23, or at least a bunch of them. I will do it today, and I have with me Shaho. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Kasper Hauger, and I'm customer coach and technical sales in Denmark. And Shaho is on the sideline, will answer your questions. And he's the market development technical specialist from Sweden. The agenda for today is improvements to the UI and results in FEM-Design. It's something about the enhancements made to the documentation module, a short and brief introduction to the new Elasto-plastic analysis method we have introduced for reinforced concrete and steel, and a bonus round of stuff. Before we get started completely, go to webinar, this platform. It has a panel. If you want to hide or show the panel, you click on this button here. And if you want to ask any questions to Shaho, you put them in the questions field. So any questions that he will answer them along the way if he can, or maybe at the end he will explain some of it to everyone. But no matter what, if there are questions in there, we will send it out to anyone if there's something that's not presented to all of you at once. So yeah. So I'll start off with something directly live in FEM-Design to go away from this PowerPoint, and that is the improvements to UI and results. So I have this prepared FEM-Design model, and it's a lot of different features, but all in all a lot of nice features. So first of all, and this is just something in the structure tab or tab, I will go to the first story so it's easier to see. If I turn on the ID of my elements, they are now or can now be presented as labels. So instead of it just being a text, it is now a label. This setting is set up inside the detailed settings on the label node marker. So here I can, on the label font, apply colors to this. So it has a lot of default label colors for objects, foundation bars, nodes, and so on. And in here you can change what type of background you want, auto color or no background at all. And then you can of course save this as default, so you put it in one time. You also have the option in here to have it rotate to screen plane. So if you want them horizontally, like the plane of the screen, you can just click on this this button over here. So that is quite nice. This also is implemented in the results. So in this case, I have calculated this structure. I have the translational displacements open for one of my load combinations, and I have the result displayed as how it would normally be displayed for you. If I go up into the automatic numeric values where I, in the first place, got this result, it is now possible under the display settings to also have a background mode on this result. This can also be saved as default, so you don't need to go in here every time, but it's just to show the difference. So now it puts on a label, and it's of course, if I put on for everything, they will all have a label. You can change the color also, so it does not have to be gray. This is just the auto mode. So if you want this to be very visible, like pink, you can have it in pink. Yeah. For results in general, there's some more improvements on the detailed settings and results. If I go to this one, there is the option to have it display unit. So if I click that on, it will say it's 113 millimeters and not just 113. It also has the rotate to screen plane thing, but now this is in the screen plane, so nothing will happen there. For the next thing, I will show this again, but if with the color palette, so the same result type, but as a color palette. Make this slightly cleaner to look at. So it's the same result we're looking at. Inside the display options, if you go to the default settings for this color palette, you will see it has changed actually quite a bit. So first of all, it's now easier to put in the steps. So before you had to put in the value, so now it calculates the value automatically based on your steps. So it has the range and then it's divided into 2 steps. Of course, as always, the maximum is a division of 100. This will give them the smoothest transition. And now it's easier to set the min and max. So in this case, it has the min as 0 and the max is 120. So I can just change these values and it will automatically change the scale. You can also decide over here what should be the valid digit. So if it's 1 and I reset the view, it rounds up to 2. And if I say go to the extreme 5 reset, it's like 113.2 because that is what the max is. So it's easier to control and set up this so you get your color palette range and setup like how you want it. And also a really nice feature that has been implemented for all these display settings, views. What you see is this apply button. So I can now click apply and see what I do in effect immediately. So now you don't have to click OK, close it and open up again to change. And this has been implemented on a lot, as I said. So that's quite nice. Over here on the right side on the view settings, we have some minor changes. So first of all, you have now a save view button and a select view button. So it's almost like before, but it's slightly redone. So if you open the save view, you just have the option to save this specific view. So if I say this is 3D view 1, it is now saved and stored, so I can get that camera angle again, basically. And to get it, I just go into the select view. And now you'll see the select view has some more views than it used to have. You have the return to 3D view button. You have a lot of presets, which are basically the same presets as you see up here, those you're used to. Then all the automated views based on, in this case, I have stories, I have axis views, and my save view. So if I go to this one, of course, it will turn around to the camera angle I had just before. For results, there is one extra bonus thing. It's easy again if I go to the first story. Let's say I wanted to view, in this case, the bar internal forces, the moment diagram for the beam. In this case, if I had a view that looked from the top, it would be impossible for me to see this graph. Now, if I go to display options, there is an option to turn on display graph in screenplay if it's perpendicular to the graph's original plane. So in this case where it is perpendicular to it, and I click it on and press apply, it's now possible for me to see the graph. Let me make it wireframe. So now I can still see it even though it would have disappeared otherwise. And this of course also goes for your column. So if I had the normal diagram on here and it was hidden, then it will automatically rotate to keep it in the view. Yeah. Then we have something to save and select the display status. So let's say you hide and show a lot of stuff in this model and you want it to be saved. So let's say you hit basically everything you had inside this for the slabs, or made a specific transparency setting for them. You can now save that for later with the save display status. So it just stores the value the element has, which means that if you put in more slabs or new slabs, they will not have the same transparency as the other ones. So that's basically just it. So save display status, and here you select the display status. In this case, I don't have anyone, but I can reset it. So let's use that for something else. If I go back to, just take the structure, and I go into filter, and I take out, let's say I just take the walls in this case. So I want all the walls, and I click OK. Now I have an option to use something called fade all others. I click this one, and you'll see everything has been just faded. So it has set the transparency setting to an automated value, which makes it faded. And this is really nice for your documentation, also for your workflow. But you can save this as a display status and then open it again. But if you want to return from this, you just click here, and it is reset display status. Yeah. Another thing that is in the result part of things. Let's say you want to quickly have this transition displacement results in a new window. You can just right click and press display in new window, and it will open that window. Same for everything you have in here, and it's up here in the result parts. You right click it. When you have done that, you can of course rearrange your windows as you normally have been able to. This has now been redesigned, so it's more modern to look at, and it's more modern to use. Yeah, let me take this one again. So we have some new feature in terms of your result types. So there's an option to create a virtual bar, and let me just do exactly the same as I did before, basically. So I have my walls, wall, and now I will hide all others instead. So let's say I wanted to get the result for just this this core. So I'll hide this. I'll hide these walls. Something is okay. It's bugging me. I'll just do it for everything. Now you'll see you'll see it works for anything. It doesn't have to be a core, which is basically a bonus thingy. But let's say I wanted to see. So in this case, it's just for all my walls in the structure. If I could get all these results inside these and get it displayed as as simple internal forces like normal diagram, moment diagram, and shear diagram, as if it was a virtual bar, I can now do it. So this is the virtual bar tool. And then you just basically draw your bar. And in this case, I think that in real cases, I would draw this bar inside this this core in the middle. But you draw the bar, and you select what objects to include into this one. It will generate the results based on that. And of course, it's important to note what axis you're telling it has, what's the local axis system. But now I get a new result bar or virtual bar internal force result type. And in here, it's possible to have the normal force, moment diagram, and so on displayed. And of course, if I view this MT, it's rather important where you draw it and how you do it. But it's really easy to then evaluate how much normal force is going down through this shaft is in the other shaft, and so on. So in this case, I included all walls, but you don't have to. You can just made one for this system, one for this, and one for this, and so on. And it's not exclusively for walls. If you have slabs, hollow core systems, you can draw this horizontally on your slab, on your hollow cores, and you can get the moment diagram for that action it has from the wind load, and so on. It's quite quite a nice feature that will make it way more visual to you how it's working. Yeah. That is, I think that is about it for the results and show type that I had for you. Of course, more improvements, minor tweaks, and so on. For the documentation module, I have a presentation inside this PowerPoint just to make sure I get through all of the new inclusions. So first of all, you will see a menu that's slightly different, but it has a lot of the same components. So from now on, it's divided into what we call component, format, and content. For the component part, the first thing is something we call report. And in this report, it's like you can have multiple reports in the same documentation. So for each report, you set default chapter settings, spacing settings, and so on. And the nice thing is that they have individual table of contents. So the page numbering follows the report and the report alone, and you can print either of them individually if you want to. So in this case, I'm just adding a new one, and you will see that it just adds one. So it has two called report. Now a bit further, I've named them. I also added some content to it, and you will see that you now have a new navigation panel. It's on the bottom right. Here I'm switching between each report, and you will notice that the page numbering is different. Also, to cycle through pages, you just use these two buttons to do it. Extra, as you see, it's now possible to collapse, expand your chapters and your reports. You can easily hide and show, like I just did there. It's on report basis now, on report level, you could say so. For these new, or for this navigational panel, it's slightly improved. You can now drag and drop. So you will see I'll just drag and drop this table in the navigation panel. It doesn't matter how many you choose, where you choose them from. You can drag and drop them. So drag and drop it. So let's say I selected basically all I see here with the shift tool. I can drag and drop it up and down. So no more cut and paste to move around. Another thing, right click on it, you can press select type. So I just selected all tables in the documentation with one click, and I will add a caption with one click and click OK. So now all my tables in the documentation says table and then the ID of the table, and it was all set in that manner. Another thing is something called spacing. So it's just, instead of you having to use the new line feature to move stuff up and down to make sure they have the right spacing between each other, you can set it per element basis, or you can just say that all my graphical windows have this spacing before and after. So it's just it creates a margin from this to the rest. Yeah. For the table of contents, it's improvements to how you do the font settings. So now it's basically you can override it here if you want to. The same goes for the chapters. So the chapter, as I don't know if you saw it, but on the report level, you can set a default for the font that chapter uses, and now you can just override it inside the chapter. For any, we'll say, normally if you want to change that it's A4 to A3 and such, it's now called page format. So we have the page format settings, and this is just for the layout. So what type of paper is it? What's the dimensions? And it works as normally. Same basically goes for the title block, but it has been redesigned slightly. So it's more intuitive to use, and it has a really nice feature: fit margins to title block. So you will see when I apply this, and I'll let it play again. You can see the margin is quite shallow at the top, but when I apply my title block, it will use that to rearrange the margins to use in my report, and that's quite nice. For your title blocks, if you are the type to make them yourself, you can now add a basically unlimited amount of user-defined fields. So if you want to have something specifically set, you can just add it in here, put it in your title block, save it, and then use it for the future. We have some new title block templates you can use that's more modern, and one of them will use quite a load of user-defined data. Break page new line is the same, so no changes there. For your graphical windows, we have first of all a new automatic feature, you could say so. So with that one click, I now will add all my load cases as graphical windows. So I'm setting this up for basically everyone at one time. So now I got one image and not quite satisfied with the view. So I changed the view, made some settings over here you cannot see, and I will copy the window settings. Now it's possible when you apply the window settings to tell it if it's both the drawing layers, object layers, or the load layers you want to copy. So in this case, of course, I don't want to change the load layers of the different loads. So I click that off and click OK, but now it will have the same look to it. So few clicks and now all my load case graphical windows have the same feel to it. So they follow the same style. Another thing that's quite nice, you can resize it live. So you will just see me change the width and the height of this graphical window just by dragging and dropping. This is the next window. I will drag and drop that one, or dragging and releasing it. I'll go back to the previous page, and now you have two small windows. And these I can drag and drop. So you can change the arrangement of these just by dragging and dropping. And in this case, I'm doing it for graphical windows, but it works the same for tables and graphical. So you can just drag and drop, change the order live. Something else special, I think you can call this is margin. So if you want the window to have less size or be smaller, but not change how it affects the rest of the documentation, you can use something called margin. So it basically adds an internal padding to it. In terms of titles, it now has an automatic title feature. So you'll see my title is displayed below the graphical window, and it's because it's turned on. Now we'll turn it off for the top one, and you will see it is like it is now in FEM-Design 22. So it has the information about Eurocode and so on inside. Now, if you turn off everything as it is right now, actually, it will not display anything, and that has been made so that when you make your front page, it will be really pretty. So no information available at all. But then otherwise, you have your caption, your title, and your automatic title settings. For tables, it is slightly like for graphical windows. You can now resize live. That's what you see me do here. So the column width, you can just drag it, change it. If you want to quickly decide that I don't want these columns to be included in the table, you can just open this plus sign or click on it and open this menu, and then you can use Shift tool to select however many you want. Click on one of them and it will automatically be like this. We have included some new default settings for how much is visible as default. Yeah, so this also includes, you see in the format page of this table, a lot of things to change, of course. You can save that as default if you want, and you will remember it for next time. As a bonus thing now, you can row filter, and you have some table options. Row filter I'll get back to. Same with this one. List of objects is interesting. So in this case, I just added one for walls, but I can be more selective. So let's say I only wanted to show a specific set of walls and what their information is. I can just choose that. So a few ways to do it. You can just select objects manually, and that's what I'm going to do in this case. So I'll say wall 1, 2, 3, add that, click apply, and then where you see me drag it down, it has only those walls. But this is manual, so it will not change. If I want something more dynamic, I can pick, for example, story 4, and in this case, it will always recheck how many walls or which walls are there on story 4. In this case, I have one wall, and if I change it, I can have multiple walls or change the model, but I don't need to change the documentation. It is automatically updated. So yeah, that's quite a nice feature. You can do the same with using this filter option to select what kind of walls you want included. Yeah, then we have some general font settings and so on. You can change that slight redesign. Yeah. And for stuff for stuff like this, you have, one bonus thing you have for your bar elements. You now have the length. It's included in the table, so bar length is there. For results like this, where we have this max of internal forces, so on, you can use the row filter to hide the, let's say, result types you don't want. So in this case, it's the trusses. I only want the normal force, so I'm hiding everything else. And I could also hide, of course, these columns if I only wanted to display normal force and what combination it's found in. Yeah. For the text, it is now a rich text input editor. So basically, you can write and format it in basically unlimited ways. So in this case, I'm changing the color of the text. I have something in bullet point. You can underline it, you can overline it, you can change the background color and so on. You can also add symbols. These are the symbols, you saw them. And you can put stuff in squared. Or whatever you wanted to write there. So it's quite an improvement. If you save this, if you go to settings here and click save, you can write something general you want to save for later. So in this case, if I use this to save it, I will get it on the list. So you could have a standard description of something you want to add every time, but it's not something you have in a template because it depends on where you want to put it and so on. You can just save a bunch of different texts you like to use. The Dropbox, it's basically the same. It just has this title option thing and so on. It's basically it's just easier to make it visually as pleasing as the rest. Same goes for picture. You want a title on it, it's possible. Let's say this is practical thing. If you have something you know you're gonna add into your documentation, but afterwards. So in this case, I am inside this documentation. I'm here, about here. I'm adding something called an external document placeholder, and it's this function. It will just add empty pages. So it is basically ready for me when I print this PDF to just merge in the PDF I wanted to include in it. It will not generate blank pages. It will just basically just skip the page numbering. So it will go from page 10 to 19, for example, just by one click, and then you have room to put in your external document. So that's why it's a placeholder. Yeah. The wizard is the same, so no changes to the wizard. He is like he used to be. In terms of speed of the documentation, there's been one rather significant improvement. So normally when you added the result windows to your documentation, it didn't matter really if it was on a story level, access level, or the 3D view. It will store the same amount of information. And that is why if you have a big model, when you add a lot of windows, then at some point it will get heavy. Now, in this case, let's say I had 7 stories, and I in FEM-Design 23, the new one, add 1 view per story. I will have a total amount of results that is like the 1 full view. But in the old version, you will have the full result 7 times, even if it was just the 1 story. So, and that is why this will be a huge improvement for you in terms of the speed of the documentation that you're using. So this one, I think this one is quite nice. I really like it. The only thing is then that if you add let's say you add a story view like this, and you, for some reason later on, think that I want to change this view so it's not just a story, then you cannot really use it because it's limited to just that information level from the results. So you have to generate a new graphical window. But yeah, that's a minor thing. For templates in general, I have listed up here all the improvements, or basically I think that by now there should be a few more. But as you can see, it will now store a lot of information that it did not store before. So you will have a lot more, say, a lot nicer time with using your templates for your projects. And so this is a cross-format component content stuff that it will that it will store. Yeah. And now for some of one of the say most exciting news, if you like doing analysis stuff. This feature I will not go deeply into because Isak and Johanna is doing a webinar on this alone, and it is quite complex. There's a lot to say and so on, but I'll just briefly introduce you to it. So we have introduced a new Elasto-plastic model for shells, and it is to be used for reinforced concrete and for steel. So it will, for concrete, have the failure criteria by Kupfer implemented. So biaxial compression, compression state, you have the tension side, and it will follow the stress strain curve as we know for concrete, including hardening if you wanted to. For steel, we have von Mises, of course, and a linear elastic, perfectly plastic stress strain relationship. It is done through what we call layered plastic shell model. So it basically divides this slab or shell into n number of concrete layers, and it has the steel layers. In this case, we're able to have 4 steel layers. You don't have to use all 4 steel layers. If it's a single span, you can just put in at the bottom, and it will still work, of course. And this, of course, it gets more complex, but it's the gist of how it works. So briefly said, to do it or to use it inside FEM-Design, if you have something, let's say a plate, in this case, it's a plate. Under the material I have for the concrete, there is a plastic analysis data button. All you need to do is basically click on that, and then add a cross in consider elasto-plastic behavior. And now you see I have a lot of different stuff turned on, but this is basically just what it can look at and what it can simulate in your analysis. So first of all, you can decide yourself if you want it to be just for ultimate limit state or the serviceability limit states, or how you want it to be calculated. So first of all, does it need to consider the elastoplastic behavior? Yes or no? Then you can add plastic hardening, which is this part of the curve between elastic and plastic. So if you don't, it will follow the linear one. If you turn on crushing, it will of course check if you are pushing the concrete to the limit, and it will crush. You have the option to turn on tension strength and plastic flow rule so that it actually has a tension strength. You can also turn on tension stiffening or choose between different models. You can add the reduced compression strength if it has lateral cracks, and you can reduce transverse shear stiffness if it has cracks also. And of course, last but not least, it will check or can check the ultimate strain in the rebars for you. I will show you quickly a practical example of this I have run through. And it's very important to say before I forget it that I've tested this on a wall, but this works perfectly fine on plates as well. So this is not reserved to in-plane effects. It is also out of plane. So let me go to this one over here. So I have tested a specific scenario. I have modeled this this reinforced concrete wall. So over here you have my boundary settings. I have the vertical support, I have a loading, and here's my reinforcement. So the important thing to note is that I have a standard reinforcement net here, and I have some concentrated bars on top of the hole, and I have some at the bottom, and then I have some included reinforcement here for the shear. All I did was just go inside and turn it off exactly as I showed you, or turn it on basically. So I'll turn on settings in here, and I do the plastic analysis, and it is quite fast actually. You can of course change a lot of settings. So in this case, you will see how this one works. So I'm pushing this one to the limit. So I tested some stuff, and I'm putting on more load than I know this wall can take. but just to get the final load step level. So I can use this to evaluate what is the maximum capacity of this wall system. So one of the result types you get is this one. It will show you where it's cracked, where it's plastic, and where it's elastic, or where it's crushed. So in this case, it's the concrete. See all my cracks in here. You have single cracks, double cracks, you have direction, so on. You can see where it's plastic. And this you can change. So in this case, it's a wall. So I could, if it's symmetrical reinforcement, one layer is enough. But if you had a plate with 10 layers, you can go through each layer and see how the crack propagates up from the bottom to top and so on. I could also see, if I wanted to, how the reinforcement is doing. So is it plastic or elastic state? It will be presented in the same way. So down here in my deformation figure, you can see that it's working quite nice. You have the tendency to plastic hinges here and there, and here. And what I really like is what showcases that this is really effective. This is one of the result types right now available for me to actually show you. But this is just the absolute stresses, sigma 1 and 2. So this is both tension and compression. But here you can see that it is concentrated on your compression, on the compression parts, compression rods, and also in terms of tension, it is around the concentrated reinforcement. I can show you another result that is going to show you somewhat the same. So 1, 1, 2, 1, 1. So here the green lines are tension, and the red ones are compression. So here with the tension parts, you can clearly see that there is a value that it reaches for all the standard rebar I put in, and then it can go quite a bit further for the concentrated and somewhat quite larger reinforcement I put in as extra. So it will utilize what is available, and it will be, and for me at least in this case, is a huge difference between the elastic solution, the plastic one. So consider this a teaser, and as to why you really should join in for Isaac and Johanna's webinar on this matter. Yeah. So we have arrived at the bonus round. So we have quite a lot of stuff in here also. So there's some load general things, we have some design general things, CO2 emission calculation, and then something that is not a small part, but it is in the bonus thing, the traffic loads and load pattern. And it is a big thing. I will get back to it. So first of all, in terms of loading, you now have an option to apply wind loads or wind load resultants on diaphragms. So I added diaphragms to my structure with one click. And now in here you have a tool that's called loads by diagram or diaphragm. Sorry. You can see in here I can create as many load cases as I want. So I can just keep on pushing it, keep on going. And for each load case, you can, for every story, add a resultant in fx, fy, mz, and the placement of it. So, and also, as you see here, you can export to Excel, and you can quickly put in the data you want, and then go back into FEM-Design with it. So you can semi-automate this if you want to, so connect it to other Excel sheets you have. And then when you're done with all of this, when you added it to this, in this case, you can see I have one in X plus direction, and then I will quickly create the same one for Y plus. And this will just put itself where I've told it. I've measured, so this one fits with X12, Y9. And I click OK, and you will see it has created now 2 load cases for me, and it has the load where I want it with the value I want. So this one, of course, will work if I put the diaphragm to rigid in the membrane. It will be a stiff plane. So yeah, that's a nice feature. Next thing is the option to export your reactions as loads. So I've created 2 small models in this case. You run through the analysis, And here are my reaction results, and you can just export them as loads. So you tell it where to store it, what's the name of it, and then you can generate either load cases, or you can just create so you add load combinations yourself, or you can just get the load combinations out of it as result type. And then you have some options to specify a little bit more how you want the points, lines, and surface supports to be exported as. So how do you like it, constant by element, and so on. And you can also filter some stuff. So if you don't want ultra small values to be included, you can set a minimum value, and you can also set a maximum value, and so on. So whenever you're done with that and set it up how you want it to be, you can either save it for future, or you can just click OK, and it will generate this. You will see it now. It will open up a new FEM-Design model for me. And inside the loads, they have been added automatically. So these are the results I had in the other FEM-Design model, and now they are loads in the next one. For design, you have something called copy design parameters. It works as your copy properties function. So the copy properties function is basically just been improved. So now it can copy design settings. So I had chosen some specific profiles, and now I just use the copy function to copy what was set for this to the other ones. And it works for steel, general steel, steel fire, concrete, design, everything you basically can set up properties for. You just copy from one and apply to the other ones. So if you forgot to mark all three of them, this will be a quick and easy way to copy what you already spent time setting up. Somewhat in the same category, we have something called copy applied design quantity. So in this case, I told this one that it should be a 260 profile, and I just want the other two to be exactly the same. So I use this button up here to copy that and apply it to the rest. So it is it's quite easy, quite intuitive, I think. For RC bar auto design, there's been added some auto calculated or option to auto calculate bar spacing. So rather simple, you just click it on, set on your min max layer min, and it will follow those rules. Some bonus things, it's now possible to add additional stirrups, and you can have more reinforcement rows. So it's just been improved. For CO2 calculation or emission calculation, so carbon footprint, you can now change a database or have a database inside FEM-Design, and here you change it per material and so on. Put in a few of the phases, which then means if you do that on your project, you will see a result type per element or in total that estimates the CO2 footprint from the phase A1 to A3. And then you can use that to compare which solution is the best on that isolated calculation. So it's rather simple again. Yeah. And now for the other very interesting but quite big feature, traffic loads and load patterns. So in this case, you'll see how there has been created multiple lanes. You can have multiple loads, different load types, and you can check the worst type of combination of these. So it's not just pedestrian, it's cars, trains, and so on. Multiple lanes. So yeah, but this is a huge feature, a huge thing. For this, I will recommend you see Shaho's webinar on this alone, because there is not far enough time for me to, or not near enough time for me to go through it. But have this as a teaser. I know this is not just for this is a load case generation by load pattern thing. So you can generate the load case pattern that creates the worst internal force of what you specifically want. But look at this is like magic. So this is a GIF of just hovering over the slab and you see live what load pattern um, um, is worst for that node you see here. And you can use this. You could utilize this for your live loading if you want to find the worst distribution. Yeah, and something. This is a bonus thing. This is a bonus thing because this is not new for FEM-Design 23. But prefab, I don't know if you've heard about it or know about it. It was originally designed for the Danish market, how we document prefabricated structures, but it is now ready to go out to basically the rest of the market. So you have probably seen it inside FEM-Design as this button on the top right called prefab, and then with a small wall on it. But it handles more than a wall. Just first of all, I will just briefly tease you or show you what it can. It is a one-click software to have a load takedown documentation for your prefabricated structure. So to showcase this, for example, I have built this quick model of a wall system, and I use prefab to kind of translate this information to a pretty report. So I have actually two options. First, I can base this report on what is directly calculated in FEM-Design, or I can actually have prefab make a new plastic redistribution. So that redistribution is fast, it is optimized, and it is not based on stiffness, but it is based on capacity. So in this case, if you choose to do that, you will, of course, no longer be able to, let's say, you cannot basically use your original FEM-Design model anymore. But we have some features to export the information so you can calculate walls and the foundations and so on based on the new results. But this is to optimize your load takedown based on capacity. So the easy one, of course, is just based on FEM-Design. And if I do that, I can get a result like this. So this is the load takedown results for this wall. So now I have easy plastically displayed compression zones. You have the shear transfer, also in the vertical sections and so on. And I have my tension in my anchors. This is an elevation. You can get it as story plots instead, however way you like it. It's an interactive PDF, so you can click on stuff and get information. There's also tables there, so you don't have to click for it, but it's interactive, it's intuitive, and it's very easy to understand the load takedown. And important thing is, as I said, it's a one-click thing. So you do the calculation in FEM-Design, and you basically just allow prefab to load the results, and then you click print. There it goes. As a bonus thing, you can also export reactions from prefab. And this is important because if you do the new plastic redistribution in prefab, you cannot use the new feature in FEM-Design, but you can still export reactions from prefab and get exactly the same. So it will copy your axes and so on. So it will be displayed in the same places. You can also get it per element basis. So in this case, let's say you want to calculate these walls afterwards. So you're not just doing the takedown, you're also doing the design. You can export these walls with all the results along the edges. So the compression, the shear transfer, or the transfer from the anchorage as loads. So it will draw one wall, all the loadings, and it will do all the load combinations for you. So you don't have to do anything, but then you can do your reinforcement design in there and so on. Yeah. So that was it. Please, if you find this interesting, please let us know if there's something inside this that you want to, or prefab wise, you want to hear more about. If you want a dedicated webinar for it. And before we finish or get to the last one, I would again really like to emphasize that you look at Johanna and Isaac's webinar about the plastic analysis thing. It has another title. It's like save 30% reinforcement, so on. It's on Tuesday, the 20th February. And then Xiaoho's 3D Bridge webinar that is just all of what you saw. Really, really nice. It's on Thursday, the 22nd. But go to StruSoft.com/webinars for more information if you want it. So I don't know, is there anything, Shaho, about questions you need to tell?
Hi, Casper. Fantastic webinar. You hear me, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking we can stop the recording and go through the questions, and we've got some pretty good questions, so we can
Okay. All right.
revise
Okay.
them and go through them together, I think, because we still have 10 more minutes, so I think we can jump on them, and I can start answering a few of them I managed to answer personally, but I'll share them as well to the rest. So the first question was if bar elements can be included in the virtual bar results, and for now the feature is only for shell objects, but it's definitely a feature request for the future, which we are hoping to see. So if you remember the part where Casper was showing the section in the walls, all of the elements were chosen, and those were shell elements. And yes, the video will be recorded and was recorded, and we will upload it in our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So we got a question, Casper, about prefab.
Yeah.
And it was if it was possible to export documentation to a Word document. Was
no,
related.
no. It is a special kind of PDF you get. It is completely dynamic, so it's not. It will not be, as far as I am concerned. You can export your FEM-Design docs.
Definitely. Can you show the PDF if you have a template on the prefab, because we've gotten a few interested.
Yeah, let me see if I can figure something out. Yeah, are there more questions you can take in the meantime?
Yes, there was one question about the copy paste function into the diaphragm and load setup, and it's about the decimal separator. In your Excel sheet, the decimal separator was comma, but many use, sorry, it was a dot, but many use the comma. Will that give an error in the copy and paste in FEM-Design?
I don't think so.
Okay.
For me, at least, if it's a cell, you put in value. It doesn't matter if it's dot or comma.
Okay.
At least that's my experience. Only if you put in the coordinates.
Perfect. And then we got a question about the use stirrup along the edge of the wall when you were showing the plastic analysis of the wall. And as far as I'm concerned, we only add longitudinal reinforcement.
Yeah, but if you add the reinforcement and it touches the edge, it will be fully anchored. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So if you add it on both sides and they are fully anchored, then it is acting as if it was a U-bar or a U-stirrup.
Yeah.
A webinar about prefab would be interesting. We've gotten the comment, which is good. Will the documentation PDF export include hyperlinks and or bookmarks?
No, not at the moment. Not at the moment. But the prefab does.
Yes.
Prefab has, so yeah.
Do we get any more questions? Any updates on how to design steel column to external fire curb without fire protection? I
don't know if that's something that's changed.
No, I don't know that either, but we'll definitely follow up on that.
Yeah.
But it's nice. Keep asking the questions if you're attending. We're still here a few more minutes.
Yeah, I can show something from prefab quickly if it's it is. So this is one standard PDF. This is actually not the newest version. I just realized I didn't have a test print from that. But this is an example of what you can see from something that's not just walls. So this is walls with columns and beams and so on. I have printed out floor plans and elevation, and I have my beams and column results. So this has some information of how to read, how to understand what you see, and so on. For each store plan, you have the elements from FEM-Design. You get all the properties. You can have your dimension lines added if you want to. You go through each story level. You have your floor plans, or your load plans, sorry. So if you have covers in FEM-Design and you put on loads, it will then transfer that information to prefab. And this is a result type of view. So for my load combinations, I think I only had I had two. So this is for story 1. You can look at upward forces, downward forces. You can look at the bottom of the walls or the top of the walls, and you can choose between load combinations here. So this is what I mean by this is a dynamic PDF. So it's interactive. So you click on off stuff. You can print a version that's called, I think it's called print friendly PDF. So it's you can semi-force it to follow A4, A3 format and so on, and print it. So it's more. I think it has more tables also, but it's not. We don't use it in Denmark, so I have not tried it that much. You can use this also to see this column. See, this column right here is getting 31 kilonewtons in force from B50 beam, and B51 is 35. So it's this beam. This is for the grid line level. So you have now a 3D view, and in this case, something is not right with this wall. It cannot take. This is from a test print. I think they were testing some shear thing. That's why it's okay, but it's not. But you will get an utilization overview, so it will tell you in this 3D view how are they doing in terms of the capacity checks that you want it to check, so you can toggle on off the capacity check in general. So now you get this to where are you in the structure, so anyone you deliver this to will quickly and easily see where they are, where is this. Here you have the elevation set up, maximum values, and then it goes into for each load combination, it has external loads, internal reactions, and so on. One nice thing I like, I don't know if you would, but for Denmark, this is a really nice feature. For your columns, you can get some 3D images like this. So I can, with this, for this column on this story, see that it has, for load combination 1, in this case, it has a total reaction of 154 kilonewtons at the bottom. At the top, it has a sum of 143, and this sum is then based on one part from beam 1, one part from beam 2, and one from column 14. And so you can see it specifically. And all of this was generated with just one click. And you can set it up. So if you don't want the beams columns printed, you just say, I don't want this. And you save that as default. So yeah, and we have a viewer inside it, so you can see your model in 3D to verify it's the same model, and you can export directly from view. It's loads of stuff. Yeah, this is what I showed you basically. This is the wall, the hat. So it could look something like this. Let's say you want information on this compression area. Click on it, and it will tell me exactly the value per meters. And I would be able to find it also in the table. So you don't have to click on it. So here it says 302. And if let's say it's a big elevation, loads of forces going around, then you can click on this button to get an arrow that points you to where is it, basically. Yeah.
So we got a
more stuff. Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting, Casper, but nice quick demo. It seems you know print pretty well. So definitely we will arrange a particular webinar about that. But there was a question about the documentation feature, and if it's possible to insert custom section and add describing text about, for example, load assumption. And as far as I'm concerned, you were adding text where you show the lorem ipsum part.
Yeah, so you can add. I don't know if it's something like I have something actually. I saved something for peak smoothing, so I just saved that. I don't know if that's it. So I have a text about peak smoothing that I can just load in. I have something for bars, so how to understand the was it something like that?
Yeah, definitely. This is perfect.
Yeah.
And then we've got a question about version 23, and next week is the release date. And maybe you can enter the StruSoft page, Casper, and to promote the seminars we will host in Denmark and Sweden, so people can sign up for those events as well.
Of course.
And we also got a good question about virtual bar. if it was just the trimmed down version of the concealed bar, and not really, because in concealed bar you could only choose one object. So if you were having a T section, it was not possible. So in virtual bar you can choose several objects. So if you're creating, for example, a shell object in let's say a T-beam, then you can get the bending moment and the normal forces in it.
Yeah. Yes, Shaho said we have technical seminars we have in Sweden and in Denmark. The subject is almost the same. This the guys who did the real math on developing the plastic shell thing will come up here and present it live. And then in Sweden, Shaho will present some bridge, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, and in Denmark, we will look at some other stuff. But the main thing in Denmark is the plastic shell discussion with the guys behind it. So it's Sultan and Sultan, who's PhD, who will present it. It's what's it? Then Monday, the 19th, and Tuesday, the 20th. Is it?
It's the week. So 2 events in Sweden and 2 events in Denmark, and it's
2 weeks. And you find them under resources and trade. So it's under training if you want to look at it on the webpage.
Oh, we got one new question, Casper. A nice one. Is it possible to add a general material which is elasto-plastic, for example, aluminium? So the yield model for steel is developed for steel, the von Mises, but I think it's only concrete and steel for now that has been implemented.
Yeah, so you can always change the material however much you like, but it will follow the behavior of either concrete or steel. So cannot change it, but you can modify this if you like. Yeah, so it works for. I don't think I really said it. Maybe not clear enough, but it works for steel. And so if you just had a steel plate or steel frame or something, you can have it plastically designed the same way.
Is it more questions? We are running out of time, but we've gotten a lot of questions and attendees still participating. So feel free to keep asking questions. We will continue for 1 or 2 more minutes, and if we don't have any questions, we will start.
This is a example report from the new one, just so you can see it. The new front page thingy, fade option will be quite nice. I really like this select type thing. So this is every graphical window inside the whole documentation, and you can click on auto title and so on for everything. It's quite nice. Now I have a virtual bar inside. Yeah. Is there anything else?
We got a comment, Casper. Thank you for a great webinar, and I think it will be on YouTube as well. So if your colleagues wanted to watch it but didn't have the time, they can.
Thank you for participating. It was nice. Nice attendee level. It was good.
Definitely.
A lot of you here. What's the level 3? Are there more questions?
Not anyone appearing now. So
if you just write to us if you find anything you want to ask about. We will get back to you. So maybe we'll just say thanks for participating, and then we really hope I don't hope, I know you will enjoy FEM-Design 23. Yeah. So that's it. Ciao.
All good from me. So thank you, Casper, and we'll keep in touch.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye.